Supermicro just reported earnings, and unfortunately, they did reduce their guidance for fiscal year of 2025. Too long no rush. The main reason is they are blaming Nvidia for delays on the Blackwell and not supplying enough Nvidia chips to be able to see their future revenue growth faster in 2025. But on the bright side, they do expect a strong fiscal year of 2026. Now, in today's episode, what I want to do is take a closer look at the following. First, a nice overview of Supermicro's earnings. And then, if you are an Nvidia investor, we're also going to learn some other things about what we learned from this earnings report, like the GB300, some of the delays that are happening, some of the changes that happen in the supply chain. So this is going to be great for Supermicro investors and for Nvidia investors as well. If this is your first time here, make sure to hit the thumbs up, make sure to hit the subscribe button, check out the pinned comment for special offer at fool.com/Jose, and check out my free daily semiconductor newsletter, whatthechip.happened.com. So let's get started.
I want to thank The Motley Fool for sponsoring this video, and check out fool.com/Jose for the 10 best stocks to buy now. With that link, you get a promotional offer for the subscription service. Now, let's continue with today's episode.
All right, so like I mentioned, Supermicro just reported earnings, and the stock after hours is up about 8%. Now, that is great news, but it's about the price that it was at the high of today as well, around $42. So we can see that before earnings, investors started to get a little bit worried about the earnings results. And obviously, Supermicro has been a stock that's been very, very iffy with the overall SEC filings and stuff like that, which they do discuss. Also, thanks to all the supporters in the channel. We recently hit 62,000 subscribers. I want to say thank you. My apologies for the past few days. I've been sick, but hopefully you can tell I'm feeling a lot better. So Supermicro, we can see the stock is up nice 8%. And I want to kind of just start off with the main thing. So SEC filing, this is what everybody cares about. Based on our progress, they are confident that their fiscal year 2024 10K and the first 2 quarters of fiscal year 2025 10Q will be filed by February 25th this year. So that's less than 14 days away, 14 calendar days away. And that's a lot less trading days away, all right? So I think for management to keep saying this, if they're not lying, obviously there's a big if, the risk is starting to maybe get a little bit smaller. And I think this is why the stock has kind of seen a nice jump up in the past month or so, right? The stock is up roughly 25%. So I'm not buying Supermicro right now, but this is a company that if they do file those numbers on February 25th and everything looks okay and they file everything just fine, this, in my opinion, is going to be a stock that's going to soar. Now, again, I'm not a betting man, but if I was a gambling man, I think the chances of them doing it is a little bit greater after today's earnings results. But again, I wouldn't bet it. I'm not buying any stocks, but let me know in the comments below. Are you buying just because this could see a nice pop-up if they return these results, or are you buying the overall company right now? Now, outside of the SEC stuff, I want to kind of talk about demand, right? So what is this company seeing in demand? Because they did give a great guidance. They gave a great guidance of about $40 billion in fiscal year of 2026, right? That's next fiscal year. And they're about 2 quarters ahead in forms of calendar year, right? Because they just finished their second quarter of fiscal year 2025, where most companies just reported their fourth quarter, right, of 2024. So in forms of timeline, they're about 2 quarters ahead in their fiscal year. So that's very important to understand, and why Nvidia is actually becoming a crucial player in the reason the company is reducing their guidance for this fiscal year. But I want to discuss a little bit about demand. There was a question of, look, has there been any growth in demand, especially from sovereign AI in the past 3 months? And Charles mentioned that, yes, there's been demand all over the world. It's no longer just the United States and large countries, but now they see many more countries going to build their own AI infrastructure. And again, if you're seeing that demand here from Supermicro, you're going to expect that from other players as well. And overall, you kind of want to see that healthy demand also as an Nvidia shareholder. Now, a question was like, hey, why are you so confident with this $40 billion revenue outlook for fiscal year of 2026? And Charles, the CEO, again mentions that they are engaged with research for the people that are going to build some of these data centers. So they understand kind of what the growth is happening in the upcoming quarters and the upcoming years. And that's why they believe that from 2025, they're going to go to about 25 billion to 2026, grow to about $40 billion. And they not only understand kind of the products and data centers under development, they also understand the chips that are coming out and when they should expect volume production of certain chips and certain future chips as well. So here, Charles is mentioning that it's kind of initiating that it might not just be, I just made up that word. I'm pretty sure someone caught it. So I'm just going to say it here. I think I made up a word, but so Charles is just saying that Nvidia is gonna start ramping up that Blackwell in later, continuing to ramp up throughout the upcoming quarters, and then after that, it seems like something else is under works that actually has Charles pretty excited, and they believe that maybe some of the numbers that they're giving are very conservative estimations. Remember, this is coming from a guy that is supposedly lying in the SEC filings right now, or the company is, not him specifically, but the company is. So take that with a grain of salt. Some other thing is some customers, in forms of demand, and I think this is very important to understand, is demand in this type of market, in the data center space. If you're an AI chip player, if you're investing in some of the components, remember that build outs of data centers take time, especially the new ones, the direct liquid cooling data centers. This is something new that is really kind of starting out into the market right now. So those can be pushed out a little bit longer than originally anticipated due to some overall logistics mistakes in how liquid cooling, how they had to kind of build the infrastructure for their system up. But Charles does mention that at the same time, they're still seeing new demand that keeps coming from enterprise and other cloud service providers. So it's overall bullish to see no longer being a market where only selected few are playing. We're starting to see maybe the overall business, other entities, other hyperscalers, other cloud service providers, other enterprise businesses also picking up here in the data center and AI space. Now, Supermicro, for Supermicro investors, one thing that you are going to be very happy to hear is Supermicro has kind of this complete solution system where they pretty much help you build the data center from scratch. And they believe as new customers come in, that's going to be a very, very crucial customer product that they are able to offer where, hey, you don't know what to do, don't worry, we got everything ready for you, from your cooling, from your software, from your security, and the list goes on and on. Now, I kind of want to look at this lower guidance and the lower guidance for fiscal year of 2025 and how they blame, how dare they, right? I'm looking at you, how dare you blame Mike Jensen and my Nvidia and my Colette on you not being able to meet your 2025 fiscal year guidance. So they are updating their guidance that was originally 26 to $30 billion to a new range of 23.5 to $25 billion. So about a 5 billion, a 5 billion on the top end and about a 3 billion on the lower end. Definitely interesting. They mentioned that the biggest factor was the delay in new technology. And that was the delay in Blackwell, right? Blackwell is definitely taking a little bit longer than anticipated. I know we hear that it's not really delayed. The reason NVIDIA can easily say it's not delayed, and I'm going to also say this, is the reason it's not truly delayed is there's so many different Blackwell platforms. While Supermicro is already shipping kind of like the B200, the other systems might be still taking a little bit longer. So the full ramp took a lot longer than originally anticipated. And that's what's causing this company to be able is causing this company to reduce their guidance for this year. Also remember that this company's only has about 2 more quarters of their fiscal year to end. So they really won't be there for the complete ramp up system of the Blackwell platform. And that's what's causing them to do it. Here is another example where they ask about the GB200 and the L72 system. And Charles just mentioned, say, look, we are just waiting for more allocation so that hopefully very soon, so they can ship much higher in volume. Now, there was a question about margins, which is also very important here in the AI server space. And analysts were saying, hey, look, is this going to decrease with the Blackwell platform? And Charles mentioned the quite opposite. Usually you kind of see margins really fight off when there's pricing pressure. And that usually happens when it's a mature product, right? When everybody's selling an H100, a server, that's when you started to see most of the margin pressure. But at the beginning, the one who's able to get the system up the fastest, the one who's able to provide some unique solution, and Supermicro believes that their liquid solution, well, everybody else is doing it. No one does it like them, and no one can mass produce it like them at such fast levels, that would be able to help them combat and be able to see a nice margin incremental as the Blackwell cycle begins. Now, another question here is, this is more now for the Nvidia investors. What is shipping in the Blackwell platform right now? So we got a clear answer. The B200 HGX system, both liquid cooled and air cooled, are shipping right now. The Nvidia GB200 NVL72 racks are fully ready for productions as well, but are still not shipping, waiting for chips. Now this opens up some questions. Is this a Supermicro thing? Are they the ones not getting enough GB200 system? Is the whole market not getting the whole GB200 systems that they were early anticipating? So this one definitely has a lot of questions for Nvidia investors. Now, the other thing that I wanted to see was kind of the demand of the Blackwell platform versus the Hopper now. And a few quarters ago, I didn't think there was going to be much of a difference, right? I think for those that were waiting for the Blackwell, we're still going to buy Hopper platforms. But it seems like maybe things are changing right now, that because the Blackwell is so close, that more customers like to have the B200 and the GP200, but it seems like they're just trying to sell whatever is available right now. But it does seem the closer you are to obviously releasing the new product, more customers are more actively waiting for the next generation opposed to the older generation, especially maybe those companies that don't need to recycle every single chip. There are many players that do, but there are others that don't, and those that don't would probably just be waiting for the Blackwell platform instead. Now, there was also another thing that I thought was pretty interesting, and they talked about the Grace Blackwell 300. And the analysts mentioned that the Grace Blackwell 300 is expected to start later this year or in 2026. But one of the main things is that this GB300 is going to be completely different than the GP200. And I think this is such great news. The GP200 was so much of Nvidia putting everything together, and maybe that's where a lot of the delays and mistakes happen. So for Nvidia to become less dependent and just say, hey, look, we're going to open up more customization, they are changing the way the board is for the GB300. For the GB300, the motherboard design will shift from directly soldering the CPU and GPU onto the compute board to using slots for GPU installations, making it easier for customers to replace components. Additionally, there are other components that are also going to be different in the GB300 versus the GB200. So I thought this was pretty interesting. And again, if you are an NVIDIA investor, I think that's definitely great to understand. The now NVIDIA is opening up to more customization, more optimization here in the GB300 system. So overall, I want to say Supermicro had great earnings. I mean, the AI server market is still in full attack. We're definitely getting that kind of sentiment from Supermicro here with that 40 billion revenue expectations for fiscal year of 2026. The only thing is we're probably going to hear a lot of news of maybe systems not working, typical things that's going to create more volatility in the stock. So always be understandful that the market is here to create volatility. So be careful with what you read and make sure to stay tuned to this channel to follow all the great news. Take care, have a good day, and see you next time.